Welcome to our present state versus history on Speaker. Here we are focused on the current events of our culture through the principles of our history, trying to make sense of the culture and the mindset of today. I am your host, Ray Mayfield. All righty, here we are back on the pod again. We're going to finish up a conversation that we recorded with Daniel New, dealing with the United Nations and our involvement there and the different aspects. We kind of got off topic there and went long and started talking about this aspect of the Bill of Rights. It's basically unfinished business that was, should we say, passed or proposed by the original Congress back in September of 1789. The first proposals, they submitted 189 proposals that Madison submitted to the Congress, but they passed 12 out of those 189, and only 10 of them were ratified December of 1791. So the 27th Amendment was the second one of those 12 that wasn't ratified. That they ratified it in Michigan, or Michigan rather ratified it May the 7th of 1992. So we still have one piece of unfinished business on the books, you might say, that our original founders had set forth to be ratified and part of our Constitution, and it deals directly with the representation of the people. And so that was what we kind of got off subject on, and so that's where we interrupted the conversation. That gives you just a little bit of history of what's going on, and we'll just pick this conversation up where we left off and go from there. Yeah, I believe it is too. And the deal with the lobbyists, it gets us to one of the biggest pet peeves that a lot of our forefathers had, was dealing with the money in politics, of making our posts of honor positions of profit. And, that's one of the huge elements that's caused the corruption in our government today. And people say, well, we need to limit their terms. Well, Benjamin Franklin said, limit the money and they'll limit their own term.
Yes.
Yeah. They won't come back.
I'm sure that most of your listeners are scratching their head and saying,
yeah,
he's talking about original First Amendment. But,
yeah.
Basically, and for those who have studied the Constitution, they know that the constitutional limitation on the size of the districts was supposed to be 30,000 people per district. And seeing that might be unwieldy at some point, or that they could handle it, once we grew a little bit, that original First Amendment said we'll enlarge those districts to 40, and then eventually to 50,000 people. And that's where it would be frozen by that amendment. And that would certainly make a huge difference if we had districts that were only 50,000 big instead of 750.
Right, and then that would put, what was it? It said no less than 300 representatives in place to be able to represent the people. So, yeah, you're definitely going to be in touch with what's going on, and they're going to hear what the people have. That's one of the questions that I've asked almost every representative for the last 10 years that's come into my office down here is, if I'm sending you to an office to do what I need to be done, what is it that I need to be done? And they all look at me, because they haven't done what is necessary to find out what the will of the people really is. They're going up there to do what they think we want, regardless if that's what we want or not. And this would help
to the special interest groups and the lobbyists.
Right. And so they're up there working for me, telling me what I need instead of asking me what I need and going up there and trying to accomplish that very thing.
Right.
And that is a major problem in our local areas and our local jurisdictions. And I looked in today, you talk about that, people wondering what we're talking about. If they want to go onto the National Archives, it's public information, and you can see the actual drafts that are on display in our historical archives at the National Archives Museum in Washington, D.C. And this draft was ratified in where is it here? I'll find the date. December 15th of 1791, ratified Articles 3 through 12 of the Constitution of the first 10 amendments of the U.S. Bill of Rights. So in 1992, it says that 203 years later, the second article was ratified and became our 27th Amendment. So the second article that was not ratified during that time has been ratified and is part of our Constitution today. And the
so
first,
we only have one piece of unfinished business.
That's right. The first article is the only thing that has not been ratified, and it needs to be ratified because we need to put things back in order as our forefathers intended for it to be.
Exactly.
And this is one of the solutions. Everybody says, well, okay, what's the problem? How do we fix it? This is one of the ways I think that we can bring correction to a ship that's off course.
If we had a district of only 50,000 people, then small towns in America would suddenly have representation for the first time ever, or certainly the first time since 1791.
Yeah. Yeah, that would stop a lot of this.
You could actually personally know your your congressman, and I don't mean just that you'd met him, see his picture, knew who he was. You could go in and say, hey Joe, let's talk about this last vote you pulled off on us. I'm not very happy about it.
Right. And
he would be afraid to see you coming through the door, which would affect the way he votes.
Right. And it would also give you opportunity to get information from them that, we're not getting from what's going on with what they're doing in the business that they're involved in,
You bet.
And, not to just give another plug, but there's a Write Your Congressman website out there. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's a very good tool to get information as to what they're doing today.
Exactly, but as large as the districts are, the congressman is not afraid of any given citizen in his district.
Right.
He's got an aide who tallies those things up and says, okay, we got 20 people voted for this and 30 voted against it or whatever, and he goes on about his business. He doesn't pay attention to you, whereas a small district, he would have to pay attention to you.
Right. Oh, yeah, it would change the dynamics drastically. And it would also take a lot of the ability for those lobbyists to sway people because, their efforts would be more in vain.
It would dilute their money, significantly, yeah.
It sure would. So that is one thing that I am extremely grateful to you that you've brought my circle back around. It's something that I touched on years ago. We did a lengthy study and bringing the Constitution things into current issues of things, and we briefly touched on that, but we got sidetracked off, get to chasing those rabbits and you forget where you started.
Exactly.
So, but we're going to dig some more into that, and we're going to try and get some more folks opened up to these things of our Bill of Rights and digging more into this Constitution
okay. In the meantime, let me be sure and mention that on our website, which is MikeNew.com, I would encourage individuals to go and look at it, learn a little bit about the issue, and if you've got somebody in uniform, active duty or reserve, and you're interested in getting a copy of the book to them, all you've got to do is ask us for a copy. We'll send it free. We certainly don't object to someone making a donation to help pay for postage. And people do that from time to time. I greatly appreciate that, but we've been able to send out some copies of this book to literally thousands of servicemen and women, excuse me.
Yeah.
But service members. And I still get letters from these guys saying, look, I started in on this book to prove how wrong you are. You got to obey orders. And now that I see the issues, I'm beginning to rethink this thing. I didn't realize what issues were at stake here, and so that's very encouraging when someone reads it and suddenly opens their eyes to issues they had never thought about before.
Yes, indeed, and it's a very good read. I think that everybody ought to be reading it, whether they're in the service or not, but definitely servicemen. There's a lot of
veterans too. I mean, older guys that have been in. Again, they a lot of times they'll take copies to to their local veterans organizations and share them around, and because these guys have kids and grandkids who are thinking about joining.
Yeah.
But I'm to the point now of not encouraging anybody to enlist, not if the whole idea is to enforce one world government or the new world order.
Right. Yeah. Yes, indeed, and that is something that we are heading towards fast and hard. And the scripture says that it is a situation we will deal with someday, but we're warded off as long and hard as possible.
Well, it's a situation we are dealing with today.
Yes.
It's a mercenary army.
Yeah. Yeah, really.
And we're going to be seeing, before it's over, we may be seeing Americans officially in Ukraine dying in what may become a very hot war if they keep pushing in the direction they're pushing.
Yeah. Yeah, and old Mr. Putin, he's pretty staunch on his own sovereignty of Russia, isn't he?
Isn't that ironic that here's a guy who's defending his own country, which is his job, and we're all mad about it.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
But we don't seem to have the concept of defending our own country.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing of the change of the mindset of the people, and I think that goes back to those mechanisms that they say they're going to put in place. I think they've had them in place in our country for a long time. I think they've brainwashed, if you will, for lack of a better term, a lot of the American people, and we're just ignorant to what's really going on and refuse to look at it for whatever reason.
Right.
So that's what we're trying to do, is get people to open their eyes and look and just give them information. Like I've said many times, I'm not trying to educate with the whole of the sum. I'm just trying to get people curious enough to do their own digging, because that information is out there. We have to look for it and earn it. The national medias and the popular propaganda machine for information is not going to give us the information we need.
Well, if they will subscribe to our newsletter at MikeNew.com,
there you go.
And they will have another tool in their box.
There you go.
MikeNew.com.
Mike New. Yeah, Mike.
MikeNew.
MikeNew.com. And you can get a copy of this book, and you get that newsletter there, and it's great information. Great source of goading, I guess you could say, so we can get on with our own licking and digging and educating and go on.
If the Army wants to know why they're having a hard time filling the recruitment, this might be one of the reasons. Maybe people are waking up to the idea that this new woke Army, with their emphasis upon transgenderism and diversity and sensitivity training, is not the way to run an Army.
No, it's not. It's not really the way to run any large institution, as far as I can tell.
Of course not.
So, yes, indeed. So we are moving, and they have made, I guess that's the gist of today, folks, is the United Nations has made great headway in the influence of the things that's going on in this country through the back door. It's been going on a long time. Since reading this book with Michael New, I found multiple cases where the government is basically intervened to keep this quiet, and we're just trying to get the word out. And I've really appreciated Daniel, you spending your time with us today and talking about this issue. And
happy to do it, Raymond. We'll do it again sometime.
You betcha, and I hope to stay in touch with you, and we'll
Well, thank you so much.
Come on and work on in this fight. So
all right. Well, God bless you, sir.
All right, folks. Well, there we go again. And that conversation with Daniel, that's a pretty lot of information there, guys. Pretty heavy stuff, actually, when you get to thinking about it, the involvement of the United Nations. And, those of us right now in the time frame that we're living in, a lot of this stuff, there's not a whole lot we're going to be able to do to prevent it, and I realize that, and I'm not trying to put fear into everybody. I'm not trying to get people to, being a Paytastanic or try to revolt on our government, because, there's some things that we've let get so far away that we're just going to have to deal with trying to figure out how to correct them. And one of the corrective measures that I can see that we need to be focusing on as a people in this nation is just going like this proposed amendment to the Constitution is a perfect example of something that they have purposely kept it back, I guess you could say, and prevented the House of Representatives from growing. It was Mr. Wilson. There we go again with that 1900 generation. I'm not a real big advocate for that 1900 generation, all those things that, they took the war powers to put in place and then never did rescind like they were supposed to. But Mr. Wilson, he limited our representatives to 435 districts because that was all they had room for desks, I was told. See, so, these are the kinds of logics that they're using. The reality of it is if the average congressional district is 750,000 right now, there should be 15 congressmen or 15 representatives in those districts, each one of them for the people. If you break that down, you see, so you would have more access to your representatives by leaps and bounds, as you can tell. I'm going to dig some more into this. This is a subject matter that, I've skimmed on before, but I've never really got into the deeper details of it. But I think in the future, we're going to focus a little bit of time on this and see what kind of avenues we can root up for what it's going to take to put these things in place and get people's attentions to get enough states together to ratify this and finish the business that's at hand. We know that the mechanism in Washington, D.C. that's making all kinds of money and has all their power and influence for their special interest groups, we know that they're really not interested in changing these things for whatever reason, but we are going to have to push forward and take Washington back. And, you hear that phrase a lot. This is one of the avenues where I believe we can probably accomplish that. So there you have it. That's a great conversation. There again, check out MikeNew.com and look at their stuff. Like I said before, we're going to try to get a link on our website eventually. Once again, the Present State versus History page on Facebook, for whatever reason, isn't sending out notifications. So if you would just go to the podcast, Our Present State versus History, on the Spreaker platform, which you can find the link on our website at truegospelchurch.org, and just follow it from that platform there. They'll send you notifications as you download that app onto your phone or whatever device it is that you're listening to. We really appreciate y'all listening. They're getting ready to change all of the Microsoft programming. I got notifications come January. So, of course, every computer that I have runs the software that is so far behind that they can't even update them. So, guess what? Old Ray's going to get to deal with all the technology once again. So, I'm warning you in advance that we're probably going to come onto a little spot of all kinds of irregularities and discrepancies. So, help us out any way you can. Hit that donate button. I've never been one for soliciting, but I can see some great needs for finances coming up here in the future, and we'll appreciate any help we can get. And we're going to mutter through this thing and keep plugging away. So until we meet on the pod again, have a wonderful day.